My mom used me for years, but when I finally stood up for myself, she had the nerve to say I'm the cruel one. My mom had me, a teen female, when she was 18. My dad was some guy she hooked up with at college, and for years it was just the two of us. She didn't want to return to her hometown, so my grandparents could help us. She didn't even tell them about me for several years, and then used a between me to break the news to them. Then not only did she use me to break the news, but she had me ask them if we could stay there for a while, and she coached me to eyes and make it good. I did all that because she asked, and I was between. When she wanted me to lie about my father, I did. When she wanted me to lie about where we lived before, I did. I did everything she asked. I followed her along eagerly, for the most part, when she was bouncing between guys and putting those relationships before me. I even shared a room with a random baby and toddler when I was a tween, because my mom's then boyfriend only had one extra room where his kids slept. I tried to speak up once about wanting mom to focus more on me. She figured out what I would say and gave me this guilt trip about needing to be put first because she had me so young and how she needed me to get on board. So I never tried again. 4 years ago she met her husband and dated him online when the global issue kept everyone at home. They moved in together 3 years ago and married 2 weeks after we moved in together. It was him. His 3 kids, my mom and me. His kids spent some time with their mom but were us a lot too. I hated it, honestly. But for mom I said nothing. She put more effort into his kids than she did to me, and it stung a lot. They were younger, but so what? I was still her kid too. She treated me more like an older sister by burdening me with her issues and asking me for help with them. So I started spending more time with my grandparents and began to thrive. And then her husband's ex died and my mom and her husband wanted to take in her other kids, not mom's step-kids, and mom told me she or they were adopting them all. At that point I just sort of gave up and asked my grandparents if I could live with them. Some custody things were still being worked out, so I was only living with those other kids for a couple of days. Mom was shocked when I told her I wanted to stay with her parents, but she let me thinking it was temporary. But she's realized after more than a month that I'm serious. She's tried to get me to come and spend time with and bond with the kids and help out around the house. I said no. She said they'd be my official siblings in a year, and we needed to give them a good life. I told her no. They'll be her kids and I won't be because she's never treated me like hers. I told her I didn't want to give those kids a good life, or to be their sister. I don't want to help her or her husband. I don't want to put her first anymore. I told her I was done supporting her. Mom started crying and her husband cussed me out and accused me of cruelty and abandoning my family. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Just as your mother has put her needs first, you need to put your needs first. You have no obligation to be her Cinderella, so she can pretend she's a good mother. Go live your own life. If you're not already in therapy, ask your grandparents to go, as your mother's neglect could impact you in the long term in ways you don't expect. I would highly recommend telling your grandparents the truth about how you grew up, if you haven't already. They should know so that their resolve will be strengthened if and when your egg donor decides to put up a big stink. Also, ask your grandparents to help you check your credit and identity details. You don't want your mother doing something like taking out loans or credit cards in your name. She may not be that kind of person, but it doesn't hurt to err on the side of caution. Oh, I could totally see her doing that. You should also tell your mother's husband if he doesn't already know. Be blunt with him about how your mom treated you growing up, and ask him why you'd give up being happy and well cared for to live with them. Surely your happiness is important too. If he already knows, then I just tell him you don't see him and his kids as a family. As such, you're not abandoning them. Your mother hasn't treated you as family for years, so you have no obligation to her. If you want to be snarky, I'd tell him you're sorry they're missing out on the free childcare, as that's clearly all you're worth to them. I, 23 female, and my boyfriend, 27 male, I call him Mark, have been together for 3 years now, and I decided I wanted to get my boyfriend a gift. Our anniversary is coming up and I wanted to do something really nice for him. He's a guitarist and has wanted this particular guitar. Jackson King V Series Pro Hey talked about it and said he'd love to own one. So I've always heard that the best gift is something that someone wants but will never get for themselves. I was at a guitar store looking for a gift or something, and then I saw it. It was a Jackson King V Series Pro. It wasn't exactly the one he always showed me, but it was close enough. It had the weird part where the strings attach with that clever lever thingy and the bottom of the guitar is all spiked. Sorry, I don't know guitars. I knew he wanted it, so I thought I'd surprise him. We're not rich but live comfortably, so I didn't think he'd mind paying $2,400. I ended up buying him the guitar. I used his credit card, which in hindsight wasn't a good idea. I just figured it wouldn't matter since he never makes me pay for anything. I figured it would be an okay gift. I took it out of the case it came with and propped it up in the living room and waited for Mark to get home. When he came in, I hugged him, kissed him, and told him, "Happy anniversary." I got you something special." He went into the living room and just about jumped through the roof with excitement. He instantly started thanking me and telling me all about how special this particular guitar was in comparison to the regular King V, and I just said, "What can I say? I have good taste," and we talked, and then it happened. "How much did you end up paying for this thing?" Mark asked, and I nonchalantly answered, "It was like $2,500, but I don't think I'll have a problem paying off." Then he just stared and asked me what I was talking about. I proceeded to explain how I wanted to do something nice, but $2,400 was a bit much up front. So I put it on his credit card, and I figured we'd pay it off together. Mark is not an angry person, but he was angrier than I ever imagined he could be. He just started yelling at me. I know I messed up, but he could at least be a bit grateful that someone cares as much as I do, right? He ended up bringing it back to the guitar store, but I guess they can't return it because it was on a CC or something, which I don't remember. When he got home, I thought he'd be in a better mood, but he didn't end up coming home until late, and then when he did, he just went straight to bed. This was 2 days ago, and he still hasn't spoken to me. You are the idiot. Is this for real? I spit my coffee out laughing when I got to the part where you didn't think he would mind paying $2,400 to $2,000. First of all, a gift is something you pay for. Second, you do not use anyone's credit card without permission. This is called theft. I'm hoping that you are listed as a user on said card. Third, most partners do not spend over a certain amount unless they've discussed it beforehand. How could you not see yourself as an idiot? Unless you're able to come up with $2,400 quickly, and you are the only one solely paying for it. There was a reason he didn't want to spend all that money himself to buy it. That's what astounded me as well. Always hear the joke about couples and the guy making big purchases for his hobbies without the wife or girlfriend knowing. This is just insane, and the fact she was gaslighting him about it too. He wasn't grateful that I used his card to make a $2,400 purchase for my gift to him, and thought he wouldn't mind the cost. What the heck kind of thinking is that? She has zero financial responsibility or knowledge. I love how OP said it would be a great gift for him. Just laughing my butt off at this whole entire thing. You are the idiot and delusional. Breaking up with OP in my mind, and I'm not even the boyfriend. Honey, you didn't give him a gift but a financial obligation. You gifted him debt. He would have already given himself the stress if he wanted that. Next time, use your own money. Update, so thank you for everyone's comments, even if some of you were a bit harsh. I can now see perfectly clearly how extremely foolish I've been. I'd like to address something I'd mistakenly said, as well as provide an update on events from the last few days. For starters, I didn't buy a Pro Series King V. The guitar I actually purchased was a Jackson King V Select Series Key 2, and it was used in case you were wondering. So Mark has been staying with his mom for the last couple of days, and we finally had a chance to sit down and work this out. We went to a small pizza place to eat and talk. I paid. He explained why he was upset and basically everything you guys said. I apologized and we began figuring out what would happen next. I took some advice from here and I took a few of my expensive clothes to a designer clothes store called Future Fashion and had them looked at to see if they were worth anything. I have some Supreme stuff, just like a hoodie and a few stickers that I got for my birthday last year, as well as a couple designer belts, Gucci and Versus, and one Prada handbag. Before any of you comment, none of these things were gifts from my boyfriend. They're gifts from my parents. Supreme, and the belts and handbags are from a shopping spree my mom took me on before I started college. We were I. They gave me $375 for the Supreme hoodie. I didn't want the stickers. I got $850 for the belts, and he wouldn't take the Prada bag since it's not their specialty. But I'm going to take it to a few other places tomorrow. But they said I should be able to get like $900 for the bag. So I told my boyfriend that this was my plan, and right now, counting money from my savings account, $500 literally cleaned me out. And the stuff I sold, I have $1,750, and the potential $900 for the bag should be, according to my math, $2,625, which means I'll still have some left over to buy him a real gift. I told Mark and he was glad, and he's going to be taking the money to pay off a chunk so that we don't get interest or whatever. I don't know how that works, to be honest. As far as our relationship goes, things will be okay. Mark has calmed down and just wants 3 things to happen. First, I'm not allowed to use his card without permission, which most of you predicted. Secondly, I need to show that I fully understand my actions, and 3, pay him back. He basically told me that as long as those conditions are met, things will return to normal. He does really like the guitar, which he admitted in a silly way to try and lighten the mood at the end of the talk, and he does appreciate the thought of it. But as you all have said, what I did was wrong, and I will never let it happen again, and I'm going to fix it. Great update. Trust and respect are very important for relationships. Glad you're making this right with Mark. But you really need some financial education. You're 23 and don't know how credit card interest works. I'd highly recommend a course. It's time to grow up. 36 female. Mom to 2 girls, kindergartner and toddler. Some relevant context is that I had great parents overall, but they were controlling at times. For example, they always had strong views on what I should eat, what activities I should do, and the acceptable jobs after I finished college. Again, they were great parents overall, but it turned me into a huge people pleaser and I had a hard time making my own decisions and feeling confident in them for most of my adult life. One of the most important things for me is that my daughters feel empowered to make their own decisions and live with those consequences. My oldest daughter is an incredibly picky eater and would only eat chicken nuggets if it was up to her. I don't believe in forcing my daughter to eat food she doesn't like, but I also don't want her to think she gets to dictate what the family eats every night. My husband and I pretty much cook the foods we want for the most part and give her the option of eating it or not. If she doesn't want it, she doesn't get dinner that night. Usually she eats what we're having or eats some of it, and it's not an issue. To be fair, we tend to cook stuff she'll eat, even if it's not her favorite meal in the world. Last night we went to my in-laws' house for dinner. My mother-in-law is a very traditional woman, and when my husband was little she did all the cooking, cleaning, and childcare while my father-in-law went to work. She takes a lot of pride in her cooking, and she's certainly skilled at it. Yesterday she made steak with mashed potatoes, salad, and dinner rolls. My daughter hates most dark meats, and told me she didn't want to eat the steak. I asked her to try a bite and she did, but she said she didn't like it. I got her a plate of salad, mashed potatoes, and rolls and she enjoyed all of that stuff. My mother-in-law asked why she didn't have any steak and I explained that she doesn't like most meats but she's enjoying the other food. My mother-in-law told my daughter it's rude to go to someone's house and not eat their food, and told her she should have some steak. My daughter got uncomfortable and said she didn't want the steak. My mother-in-law kept pushing her and eventually my daughter tried another bite of the meat but started gagging after she swallowed it. She wasn't doing this to be rude intentionally. She's genuinely a picky eater who hates certain tastes and textures. My mother-in-law pouted for the rest of dinner and wouldn't make eye contact with me. After dinner was over, my mother-in-law pulled me to the side and said I was turning my daughter into a brat. I explained that I don't feel comfortable forcing her to eat something and I want her to feel empowered to make her own decisions. I also pointed out that my daughter ate all the other food my mother-in-law made and enjoyed it. My mother-in-law said I must tell my daughter that when she goes to someone else's home she should eat whatever they serve without complaint. I disagree, but maybe I'm handling this wrong. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I guess mother-in-law is the expert on being a brat, so she thinks she knows. But your daughter is young, and at that age it's totally normal for kids to get picky. She's the one with no excuse. Besides, she ate potatoes, salad, and a roll. Salad red meat isn't even good for you. Your kid ate most of what your mother-in-law prepared, so she wasn't even really rejecting the food. She just didn't want a steak. Your mother-in-law needs to freaking chill. One of my kids would have lived on hot dogs and chicken nuggets, and the other one would have lived on berries. We accommodated them on weekends, but during the week they could have what we're all having or nothing. They grew up to be healthy, non-picky adults. You're doing fine, Mama. I was a kid who was force-fed, whose parents hid things in my food, who constantly nagged and yelled at me about food, who threatened me at sec, and it only made me dig my heels in and refuse even harder. Not to mention it destroys your trust in your parents and turns mealtimes into a hugely stressful event. Once I was an adult living on my own, I began eating many of the foods I resisted as a child because I was allowed to decide when, where, and how I would try those things. Most likely your daughter will come around on her own, in her own time. Yesterday my friend Leah, 25 female, and I, 25 female, argued. Both of us are physically disabled. Leah told me that no doctor was taking her disability seriously. I've had my fair share of doctors telling me I was just stressed, so I thought I knew what she was talking about. For reference, her disabilities are chronic pain and chronic fatigue. I've dealt with both due to a different disability, but then she told me that the doctors were telling her that losing weight would fix it. The thing is, Leah is obese. I would say she's well over 100 pounds more than she should be. I understand overweight people are often told that their weight is the problem, but there's so much research on obesity's toll on the human body. Of course you're in pain moving around when you're carrying excess weight. She uses a rollator everywhere she goes. I'm not saying it's wrong. I have to use a wheelchair. Walking with it is the only time I see her moving, but even then she often sits down to take breaks. Leah asked me why the doctors took me seriously and how she could get the same treatment. I first explained to her that I've had these disabilities since birth, so there's extensive treatment throughout my life, but then I suggested that maybe losing weight would actually help her condition. I cited a bunch of research to look into to back me up, and I even explained how obesity can cause LBs. I thought I was making sense, but Leah got super upset. She told me that I was just as fat-phobic as the doctors and that I was body-shaming her. We had a back and forth for a while after that, and we haven't talked since. I feel I might have done something wrong. Am I the idiot for suggesting my friend lose weight? Her doctors are telling her what to do and she's resisting their advice, so she is clearly defensive about her weight, and her weight could be connected to her other medical issues as well. So by pushing you just raised her defenses more and may have made her feel like her other medical problems weren't valid. Not the idiot, but perhaps you weren't so wise either. I think an apology for going overboard with an acknowledgement that she has real other medical concerns that are causing issues could go a long way towards mending the friendship. In my experience, being 100 pounds overweight at 25 is not a reason to need a rollator. Sure, weight loss will have effect on her mobility, but I do think that she has more problems than being obese. It's very frustrating for a person if even doctors can't look past the obesity to see if they can help in another way. Losing weight is even more difficult without mobility. Her doctors are idiots for dismissing her struggles and giving her obviously unhelpful advice despite her pain. You're an idiot for not really listening and parroting advice she just told you was unhelpful.